us now.
We sure do. Let's bring in Ambassador John Bolton, the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Ambassador Bolton, welcome. Good to have you here this morning.
Glad to be with you.
We do expect the president to come out and speak in a few moments, and the early word that we're getting is that he will give some guidance on the plan for a planned military exercise that was going to be underway called Bright Star with the United States and the Egyptian military. What do you expect he's going to say on that?
Well, I don't know. If Wendell Goler's report is any indication, the president's statement's likely to be completely incoherent, which would be right in line with its policy on Egypt for the last 2.5 years. Look, you can't have your press secretary say, as we just saw him say, that this is up for Egyptians to answer and then try and get in the middle of it. What we should do, what we should have done from the beginning, is define not what we think a platonic form of government in Egypt would look like, but define what American interests are. I think there are two: upholding the Camp David peace agreement with Israel and keeping the Suez Canal open. And from that flow the policies that America should follow, not an extended essay on political science.
Very interesting. So that's what you would recommend the president do, to stand up and to talk about the Camp David peace accord, the significance of that, how it really determined the future of American Middle East foreign policy, and that it is the most significant element to our ally Israel, right?
Well, I'm not sure I would have the president be saying much at all here. The issue is what American interests are, and therefore how we protect American interests. And this notion that somehow that a little bit more discussion between the military and the Muslim Brotherhood would bring sweetness and light to Egypt is completely wrong. The Muslim Brotherhood is not a political party as we understand that term in the United States. It's an armed militia. It's what Justice Jackson said in a context of the Communist Party. Here, the Muslim Brotherhood is a state within a state. It wanted that confrontation yesterday. In its twisted view of the world, having more martyrs increases its legitimacy, increases its appeal. And let's be clear, the military, having twice in the past half-century cracked down on the Muslim Brotherhood, is more than happy to oblige. What's going on in Egypt now is a raw struggle for political power. And our giving them advice about how to resolve it's going to have no impact. If anything, the incoherence of our policy simply tells the parties in Egypt that we're irrelevant. We've got to come back to what our basic interests are, and I think that means that what we need is a stable government, and right now that means the Egyptian military, ugly as it may be.
I mean, you basically made this call in the early days of the Arab Spring, that the military leadership in Egypt, flawed as it clearly was going to be a better partner to deal with, given the U.S. interests, than the Muslim Brotherhood, certainly. My question is, with the Suez Canal at this point, you know, the need to protect that and the possibility that has been raised a couple of times in discussions I've had over the last couple of days, that might be a flashpoint. What would you do to prevent any problem there?
Well, I think continued support for the military. I mean, I think there are at least some elements of the Muslim Brotherhood that understand that if they close the canal, the already collapsing Egyptian economy would be essentially finished. But in a time of strife, even more extreme elements, Al-Qaeda or other terrorist spin-offs of the Brotherhood, might think severely damaging the weak European and American economies, which is what would happen if the canal closed, might be worth the pain to Egypt as well. You've already got the Sinai Peninsula, since the fall of Mubarak, turning into a transit route for terrorists and people smuggling weapons and threatening Israel. The situation is deteriorating. The Muslim Brotherhood is not going to bring stability. The Muslim Brotherhood is going to make things worse. That's a fact. The Muslim Brotherhood assassinated Anwar Saddat in 1981 because he negotiated the Camp David agreement, and they have not changed their view since then.
Yeah. Excellent points. John Bolton, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Martha.
I want to take you out to Utah. There's a race against time.